Cool, we'll get started. Hi there, and welcome to the Consumer Privacy Workshop, where we'll be showcasing and demonstrating how to implement some of the recent consumer privacy features from Plaid in Plaid Link. Before we get started with all the great content we have for today, we wanted to take a quick moment to introduce ourselves. My name is Jennifer, and I am an engineering manager here at Plaid, and I manage the consumer privacy team, which is a team that is dedicated to building products that enable consumers, the end users, to understand and control the financial data that they've shared in the fintech ecosystem. I'm super excited to be here today with my colleague Zach to share with you some of the great products we've been working on.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Zach, I'm a product designer on the consumer privacy team.
Here's the agenda we have for today's session. We hope that you'll take away three main things from our workshop. First, how Plaid is thinking about building consumer privacy products. Second, what the new consent pane updates are and how easy it is to implement them in the developer dashboard. And third, what the new account select pane updates are and how to begin your migration process. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We'll be doing Q&A at the end of the session, so if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A part of the platform, and we'll answer as many as possible at the end of the session. Additionally, we'll be sending some documentation over at the end of the session, so keep an eye out for that as well. And with that, I'll hand it on over to Zach.
Thanks, Jen. So as you heard from Adam earlier today, privacy is something that is top of mind in our industry. And Plaid is reinforcing our commitment to building an even safer ecosystem. So to kick off this session, we wanted to share with you how we at Plaid are thinking about and building for consumer privacy. So we believe that Plaid is the safer way for people to share their financial information. We are founded on the principle that people have a right to their financial information, and they should get to decide where, how, and with whom it's shared. That's why every Plaid product is built with three pillars in mind: control, security, and transparency. When we think about consumer privacy at Plaid, we're thinking about how to build even more transparency and control into Plaid to make it easy for you to adapt to the changing privacy landscape. We're dedicated to make it easy for you to adopt our latest privacy features. And finally, as we work to build products at Plaid, we anchor ourselves to a few key principles: data control, providing meaningful controls and only collecting and sharing people's data with their permission; transparency and education, making it easy to understand our data practices and controls along with how data is used; making the complex accessible, aiming to make complex privacy topics approachable for users; creating an industry-leading experience where we're aiming to champion pro-privacy and pro-consumer practices with the belief that best-in-class privacy products create good experiences; and finally, that people own their data. We only share people's data with their permission with the belief that they own their data and we don't. So to dive into the updates today, the first product update we'll walk through is for the consent pane, which is related to our pillar of transparency. So this update is now available for all US and Canadian customers and includes an option to include the co-branded header, where you can feature your branding alongside Plaid's for a seamless experience. It also features copy updates where we're highlighting the benefits of using linked in consumers. So first, we'll dive into the co-branded option. Consent pane is the first pane that users see in the link flow and serves to bridge the gap between your app and the Plaid experience. We want to be transparent that it's Plaid that the consumer is interacting with, while still creating something that seamlessly fits into the consumer experience. In the co-branded variant, we've added an animation to provide a seamless transition between your app and Plaid. This adds even more transparency about the relationship between your app and Plaid. In addition to the configuration updates, there are also several automatic changes you can expect to see when using the updated consent pane. The headline will now render the correct account type based on the product you initialized link with. The copy on this pane has also been updated to help people understand the benefits of using Plaid. For example, Plaid does not sell or rent their data, which is a core principle that Plaid was founded upon. We've also updated our privacy policy for even greater accessibility. Now zooming into the automatic changes. These automatic changes to the consent pane will be applied on November 16th. And if you don't manually update to the new consent pane before then, we will automatically upgrade you to the new Plaid branded version of the consent pane, which will have the automatic changes applied to it. Now, Jen will run you through a demo of how to implement the co-branded consent pane. Jen, you're on mute.
We've made it really easy for you to adopt the consent pane updates without making any code changes in the developer dashboard using the link customization feature. The link customization feature allows you to customize different parts of the link UI. And we've implemented the new consent pane updates with link customizations. So to adopt the new updates on the consent pane page in the customization tab, you can simply select the version 2 tab and you'll be able to customize the new consent pane. Here, you can choose between a Plaid branded consent pane and a co-branded consent pane. If you choose a co-branded option, you will need to have a logo that's associated with your developer account. If you haven't uploaded a logo before, you'll be prompted to do so here with the Finish Setup button. In this modal, you'll be prompted to upload a logo that must be a 1024 by 1024 PNG file. And you'll also be prompted to specify an optional parameter, which is the brand color. The value you specify here is going to be used in the loading dots and the animation to the lead up of link. We'll see that in the preview in a moment, but it's a really, really nice touch to add to kind of bridge that gap between your app and Plaid link. So here you're going to see that preview and pay attention to those nice little loading dots, which will be green. Hopefully you caught that. Before we publish our changes, there's a few other customization options I want to walk you through for the new consent pane. The first is the ability to customize the word account in the headline to better fit your product needs. The second one is the ability to customize the button text, and we have a few options for you to choose from. Once you've customized the pane to your liking, you can publish changes, and the changes will take effect in production shortly thereafter. At any point in time, if you change your branding or your logo, you can always come back to this page to update that, or you can do so in the application page in Team Settings. And lastly, if you ever want to revert back to Plaid branding, you can do so here as well by simply choosing the Plaid branded option and publishing those changes. And that's how you adopt the new consent pane. At the end of the session, we'll send some documentation that provides a few more details on the update process, but hopefully you see how easy it is to paint. And with that, I will send it on over back to Zach, who will share more product updates.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. So next, related to our pillar of control, we'll walk through the updates to the account select pane. This update is now also available for all customers and includes a new user interface for users to select one, multiple, or all accounts, and functionality where Plaid will store and share only the data for the accounts that the user selects on this pane. In this new experience, you can choose the behavior of the pane depending on the accounts that you need to request access to. We'll be offering 3 variants of the new account select pane: single select, which is recommended for ACH use cases; multi-select for use cases that support multiple accounts; and select all, which is recommended if your use case needs to request access to all accounts, like a PFM. You can also continue to use account type and subtype filtering to specify which account types your customers should select. If you need to request access to new accounts in this experience, first, Plaid will issue a new accounts available webhook when we discover new accounts. Then, create a link token with update account selection enabled set to true. From there, consumers can then authenticate themselves with their credentials to have edit access to their item. And from there, they will then be able to update the selected accounts. If they previously selected accounts, those accounts will be pre-selected on this pane. They can also deselect those previously selected accounts. And if they do so, they'll be shown information on the impact of this action and more context on how their data will be handled. Once your user has updated the account selection, only that new data will be shared with you. And so also as part of this change, we're creating more consistency in Link. We're consolidating the account selection experiences between financial institution OAuth flows and Plaid Link account selection. So that in most cases, your users will only see one account select flow if version 2 is enabled. Second, the account select pane previously replaced the success pane in Link when enabled. We're also adding a success pane at the end of all Link flows for a more consistent and conclusive experience. And finally, the existing account select pane will be retired in March of 2022. If you don't update to the updated account select pane, there will be 2 potential paths. If you don't use the existing pane, the enabled for all accounts version will be added before the success pane in your link flow. If you do use the existing pane with either single or multi-select, you'll be automatically migrated to the new respective version. And with that, I'll kick it back over to Jen to walk through how to implement the updated account select pane.
Thanks, Zach. I'll now show you how to migrate to the new account select pane. And here up on the screen, we have a sample application that we're going to use for this demo that allows us to add an item with Plaid and to pull data from Plaid's API for that item. This application is currently set up to use the existing account select pane. And during this demo, I will show you how to migrate this application to use the new account select pane. Before we get started with any of the migration steps, however, we're going to first start by creating an item with the existing account select pane. That way we can see how the API behavior will change as we adopt the new updates. For this demo, we are going to utilize the Sandbox Custom User feature, which is a feature from Plaid that allows you to customize the data that you receive for an item that's created in the Sandbox environment. If you're unfamiliar with this feature, we'll be sending some documentation at the end of the session to help you learn more about the Sandbox Custom User feature. But in short, it allows you to specify the data that you would like to get from Plaid's API in the password that you submit during the link flow. So this is the password that we will be submitting, and it specifies two custom accounts, the first with mask1234 and the second with mask2345. To actually create an item with this custom data, in the link flow on the credentials pane, you will need to specify user_custom as a username and that custom password in the password field. So here you will see those two custom accounts that we just specified on the existing account select pane, which is where we prompt end users to share their preferred accounts. So let's select the first checking account with mask1234 as our preferred account, and Plaid Link will hand off the preferred account in the accounts field in the onSuccess callback. That way you will know which account your end user selected. Now, this is the next page in our sample application that allows us to call Plaid's API and pull some data for the item that we created. Here, we just called Plaid's accounts get endpoint, and you'll see that it returns all of the accounts. And this is the API behavior that will change as we adopt the new updates. So let's get into that. We'll again utilize the link customization feature to adopt the new account select pane. You can either update an existing customization to the new account select pane, or you can create a new customization and enable the update there. If you're looking to test out the feature in a lower environment, we highly recommend that you create a new customization and enable the new account select pane there. That way you don't end up disrupting your production traffic. So we've just created a new one called account_select_v2. And here we're migrating it to the new account select pane. So on the version 2 tab, you will have the option to choose between the 3 different view behaviors for this new pane. You can choose account select for one account, for multiple accounts, or for all accounts. As Zach mentioned, the exact view behavior you want to choose is likely dependent on your use case, but for this demo, we're going to choose the multiple accounts option. When you go to publish changes, it's worth noting that only new items for the customization that you're creating or updating are going to be affected by the new pane. Existing items are not going to be affected by your changes. Additionally, at any point before the end of March 2022, you can always undo your changes by downgrading back to version 1 by clicking on the version 1 tab and publishing your changes. But we will be skipping that today. Now, to actually create an item with this new customization and the new account select pane. So on the right, we have the code that actually creates link tokens for our sample application. And highlighted is the part that specifies the customization for that link token. Here, we are going to change the link customization name in our link token create request to the new account select v2 customization name to use the new customization with the new pane. And we'll restart our server, refresh our sample application, and connect another item. You'll now see that we are seeing the new account select pane with a new disclaimer that explains that only data for the selected accounts are going to be shared. And this time we're going to choose the second checking account with mask 2345. This time, when we call Plaid's API, you'll see that we only return data for that new checking account because that was the only account that was selected on the pane. Similarly, when we call Plaid's product endpoints, they will also only return product data for the account that was selected. Now, depending on your use case, this may be all that you need to do to adopt the new account select pane. For instance, if you're using Plaid just one time in your app to get account and routing numbers, this might be all you need to do. That said, if you have a use case that might need access to more accounts, you will want to listen for the new accounts available webhook and implement the account select update flow to request access to new accounts from your end user. And I'll now show you how to do that. First, you will want to listen to the new accounts available webhook to know when your users have a new account associated with their item. That way, you know when is an appropriate time to prompt your user to update their accounts. To get set up with webhooks from Plaid, you can either create an item with a webhook, or you can update an existing item to have a webhook. We've taken the route to create our items with a webhook by specifying the webhook URL in the webhook parameter on the link token create request. And we've also registered a route in our sample application that actually listens for and responds to webhooks received from Plaid. So here we will update this, this route to listen for that new accounts available webhook. So here, if we receive a webhook with the code new accounts available, we will first log the webhook so that we know we received it. And then we will set a constant new account available to true. The exact code that you write here is going to be dependent on your app, but for us, we have a relatively simple demo app for today. We're just setting this constant to true when we get this webhook. With this webhook implementation done, it's time to move on to implementing the account select update flow. To do that, you will first want to make sure that you have implemented the link update flow. And to specify that you would like to update accounts in the flow, you will want to use the update field in the link token create request and set the account selection enabled flag to true. So now this is implemented, we'll see everything in action, and we'll start by creating another item. And again, we are going to select that second checking account. And just to make sure everything still works, we'll call the accounts endpoint, and you'll again see we only return data for that second checking account. And similarly, for the product endpoints, we will only return data for the selected account. Now for the update flow. So here in our demo application, we have a button that allows us to poll our server to determine whether or not we should ask the user to update their accounts. And so here you are seeing, no, we don't need to ask the user to update their accounts because we haven't yet received that new accounts available webhook, which we will log in a bit. To simulate this, we will again be using the sandbox custom user feature. And this time we are going to use a passcode that adds a new third account with mask 3456 to the item. So we'll go through link to add that item or to add that account. And because this is a new account that Plaid hasn't seen before, we will issue the new accounts available webhook. It's worth noting that we are just simulating this new account in the sandbox environment. In production, Plaid will automatically detect when we see a new account from the bank and fire the webhook when we see that. And it does not require a user to go through the link flow. Now, when we press that button, you'll see that it does say, yes, we should update the account selection now that we've received this webhook. And when you call the API, you'll see that the API does not return you the data for the new account. So to get access to that new account, you will need to ask your user to go through the link flow. And so here the user will be shown the account select pane for them to update their account selections. And we will pre-select any accounts that were previously shared on this pane. Depending on the view behavior you've picked, your user may have the option to deselect accounts on this pane. And if they choose to do so, Plaid will stop sharing data for the accounts that are deselected on the pane. Let's try that here, and let's permission that new account that we just added. Now, when we call Plaid's API, you will see that it returns us data for that new account with mask 3456. And similarly, when we call the product endpoints, they will return data for the new account as well. Now, once you've implemented all of this in a lower environment, it's time to turn things on in production. And once you're comfortable with the experience in production, you are ready to complete your migration in the developer dashboard. To complete your migration, you will need to make sure all of your link flows are using the new account select pane. And to do that, you can simply update all of your link customizations to use the new account select pane, which we are doing here up on the screen. Once you've done that, you can go to the Team Settings Migrations page and click the Migrate button to complete your migration. You'll just want to follow the prompts here. And with that, your migration is complete. It's worth noting that once you're done with your migration, you will not be able to revert back to the existing account select pane in link customizations. So do make sure that you are comfortable with the new experience before you click migrate. And that's it. That's how you migrate to the new account select pane. We'll be sending more information in some documentation at the end, but hopefully that was helpful to kind of get you started. And this is all that we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining our session. We will now open it up for Q&A. I can answer this first one. So are link tokens required for any of these updates, the new co-branded consent pane, the updated account select pane, the webhook, or the new account select update flow? So link tokens are not required for the new co-branded consent pane. You can do that entirely just by using link customizations. For the updated account select pane, you also do not need link tokens to implement the item creation flow or to receive the webhooks. However, if you would like to implement the account select update flow, you will need link tokens to do that. It is not required for the new account select pane. You can have the new account select pane without the account select update flow. However, if you have a use case that does need access to new accounts, we do highly recommend that you implement that flow, which will require link tokens. Let's see. Zach, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so for a link to recorded version of this session, these sessions should be recorded and placed on our YouTube channel after the event. So they should be available for you to reference later.
The next question we have, are these changes applicable to investment accounts too, or only depository type accounts? I'm assuming you're asking about the account select pane changes. They are applicable to all accounts. We just use depository accounts for the demo. And you will be able to still use account type filters. So if you only want your user to be selecting investment accounts, you can still specify that in the link token create request to request access to those specific types of accounts. Is a webhook fired when an account is unselected? How do we know when to reflect that the user has removed an account within our app? So we don't fire a webhook when an account is unselected. You will get the accounts in the handoff from link in the update flow. So if the user changes their account selections, you will see the new account the new accounts in the accounts field in the onSuccess callback from link. The next time you call the API, the accounts will be the ones that were newly selected on the pane. So that's how you'll know if something was unselected. Does the new account webhook tell you what type of account it is? No, the new webhook does not tell you what type of account it is. It just tells you that there is a new account for the item. Sorry, the questions kind of come in different orders. So I'm reading one and then a new one pops in. Another question I see, if a user gives permission to an account they had previously excluded, will historical transactions that just go back 2 years from that day or from the original Plaid item connection day? We will pull from 2 years back. We will do an initial and a historical pull when a new account is added to the item. Is it possible to add messaging in the account select pane, reminding the user of the requirements? Oops, I just had one highlighted and it moved.
I think it went to the top.
Reminding the user of the requirements around the account they would need to select or share data from. No, we do not have the ability for you to customize messaging on that pane presently. You can specify which accounts you want the user to select from using the account filter. So you can specify the type of accounts or the subtype of the account that you want the user to be selecting from. Zach, do you want to take this one? The keynote mentioned a new product for consumers to better manage their data and privacy. It moved as well.
It's at the top.
Yes. Do you have thoughts on if or how the existence of the new product should be communicated in the link flow?
Yeah, so I think we're talking about Plaid Portal here, which allows people to both see the data they've shared as well as manage their connections. Right now, within Link, the way we're thinking about it is focusing on the task at hand, linking their accounts. We are thinking about how we can tie projects together and make people aware of the fact that they have the ability to manage their connections and data. We don't have any changes on that front in Link right now, but it is something that we're thinking about.
I also want to just quickly let you all know we posted some of the documentation that we referenced in the chat. So if you want to check that out, it's there. This one, I missed the initial part, but is this migration or change optional or forced changed? If forced, any last date for this, and quick way to make this happen without making a lot of changes on our end. Yeah, so for both of the new updates, we will be having an automatic migration that will take place if you do not take action. So for the consent pane, on November 16th, we're going to be upgrading all of the existing consent panes to the new version of the consent pane. If you do not take any action, you will by default be migrated to the new Plaid branded version of the consent pane. If you want to adopt the co-branded one, you can go to the dashboard, upload a logo, and choose that option. For the account select pane, we will be completing the migration by March 2022. So if you have not gone through the migration steps yourself on that date or by that date, we will do an automatic migration for you. If you are not using the account select pane today, we will automatically migrate you to the select all pane. And if you are using the account select pane today, we will automatically migrate you over to the version that is the parallel for the existing pane you're using today. So if you're using single select today, we'll migrate you to the new version of the single select pane on March 2022. And you can see the migration guide that we just sent in the chat earlier if you want to learn more about that migration process.
can take this one on the consent pane. So a few of the benefits that we're launching as part of the automatic changes. So copy and messaging that has better reflects the benefits of using Link. It's been updated to better communicate with consumers, help them understand why they're using Link and why they're using Plaid, as well as just some accessibility updates to make it even more accessible. And then the configurability options. So the introduction of that co-branded header, giving you more options to portray your brand in Link and make that gap between your app experience and the Plaid app experience, bridge that gap and make that feel really seamless is what we're trying to do there.
Cool. So I think that is all that we can answer today. We're at time for the session. So thank you so much for attending, and hopefully you learned a thing or two. Again, the 3 things we hope you take away are how Plaid is thinking about building consumer privacy products, what are the new consent pane updates, and how easy it is to adopt them in the developer dashboard, and how to get started with the new account select pane updates as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.